Hi, it's Brian here with an update on my comrades training. It was a busy week for me and I missed a couple workouts, so I was happy to get in a solid tempo run in this afternoon. I happened to be listening to the Rich Roll podcast, which is one of the best out there for all things health and wellness related. At the beginning of the podcast, Rich was apologizing for his lack of commitment to getting his weekly YouTube videos up, which is something that he promised back in January. And that was a reminder that I needed to get my butt back in gear as well and get some of these videos that I've planned recorded and get them up so that you guys can check them out. His guest today was an expert on sleep named Sean Stevenson, who got into health and wellness as a result of having a rare degenerative bone condition that he developed as a teenager, and it set him on a path of discovery in order to heal himself. That is very much in line with the focus of this video today, and where I want to talk about my experience as an ultramarathon runner who has a disease called Ankylosing Spondolitis, which is a specific form of arthritis. Now you might be thinking, what in the world is ankylosing spondylitis? Well, it's also known as AS and is a form of arthritis that affects between 150 and 300,000 Canadians. It's more common in men than it is in women, and often tends to develop between the ages of 15 and 30. It's commonly it first appears as pain in the sacroiliac joint or the SI joints, can become more severe, affecting the rest of the spine and sometimes other peripheral joints in the body, such as the hips and shoulders. So what's my experience with AS? I started experiencing pain in my low back and hips around age 25, which I naturally attributed to being on my feet all day for my job and running a lot of ultra marathons. Throughout all of 2010, I struggled with pain and was confused by how the symptoms would actually decrease as I ran further during a race, but then become much worse after taking 1 or 2 weeks off for rest. As easy as it was to blame the running, it just didn't make a whole lot of sense with how the symptoms were showing themselves. The flare-ups got progressively worse, and over a year of on and off symptoms, I finally decided to see my doctor about it. He suspected it could be AS based on my description of my experiences, and he ordered a blood test and some imaging to take a look at my SI joints. The blood test confirmed that I carry a gene called HLA-B27, which is present in over 90% of those with AS. Not all people with this gene develop AS, but it is not nearly as common with those without it. Based on a weighted test of various components, including an X-ray, MRI scan, and all the other symptoms I described, my doctor confirmed on September 5th, 2011, that my score was sufficient to diagnose me with AS. I had already been going through physiotherapy to strengthen areas of my body, particularly my core and my low back, that had suffered extensive damage during my 2010 race season, which included 18 races of marathon or greater distances, including my first 100-miler. But because I did not realize what the cause of all that pain was, I was not able to manage and control it nearly as well. So simply having a diagnosis was a great relief, and I spent the following couple years learning as much as I could about the disease as well as about my own body and how it handles different types of stress, training, and various treatments. So what causes AS and how can it be treated? There's officially no known cause or cure for AS, although there is much anecdotal evidence out there to support the claim that diet can play a big role. Often, the only treatment is medication to control the inflammation, physical therapy, and in only the most severe cases, surgery and full joint replacement. Using NSAIDs, initially Advil and more recently Celebrex, I have been able to manage the pain and the flare-ups as best as I could. It took a couple of years of trial and error to see what worked best, but the pain gradually became less frequent, and I learned to respect my body and rest when I was experiencing flare-ups. One kind of unexpected thing that has been part of my experience is the amount of mental work that had to go into dealing with this disease and working specifically with my own ego to accept that 1 month I could run a 100-mile race or a sub 3-hour marathon, and only a week or two later might be barely able to sit up in bed without extreme pain. That's really difficult to put those two together and find an authentic version of who I am, if not defined by all this crazy running that I was doing. I had to respect my body while experiencing flare-ups, which sometimes would last 3 to 4 weeks at a time, where I couldn't do hardly anything. Luckily, that only happened about once or twice a year, those severe flare-ups, and it's been over 2 years since the last time I've had anything of that nature. I started to notice that the consistency as well as stress management seemed to be the most effective in preventing these flares from occurring in the first place. As I learned to manage my AS better, I was able to step up my running and my yoga practice as long as it remained consistent without more than a couple of days of rest between exercises. This also helped to keep me strong and mobile, and also helped to lower my overall stress level. So it all kind of worked together to create the synergy that battled the pain and the symptoms I had experienced. The flare-ups that I did experience would most often occur during high stress times or after a break in training of more than a week or two, or when my diet deteriorated. So, back in the fall of 2014, I chose to try shifting my diet towards more of a plant-based approach, which was partly inspired by some super athletes such as Brendan Brazier, Scott Jurek, and of course Rich Roll. I found that it further reduced the frequency and intensity of any pain I might have had, and over a year and a half of eating mainly a plant-based diet with minimal dairy and eggs, I've been able to successfully stop taking my daily medication, and I feel 100% now with no flare-ups so far since stopping my medication about a month ago. My running has actually improved substantially over the last year or two, and I'm feeling stronger than I ever have before. I believe diet is a critical part of my current health and performance, and I believe that focusing on eating more fiber, focusing less on protein, which seems to be the really important macronutrient to everybody out there, but it's really, we get far more than we actually need, in my opinion, and focusing that attention more on fiber, which many of us are extremely deficient in, as well as the basic strategy of just eating whole plant-based foods. It's not just a key part of treating AS, but part of halting or even reversing many other serious health concerns that face many people in our society today. Um, there's overwhelming scientific evidence and data to support the benefits of eating plants in their whole form, and also to show the elevated risks to depending too heavily on animal-based foods for nourishment. Nutritionfacts.org is a really wonderful resource if you want to find out some really cool, cutting-edge, and useful information as it relates to nutrition and plant-based diets and all that sort of stuff. What's actually true and what is just kind of pseudoscience or made up in the media. I've gone through some very frustrating moments in the last few years where I ask, why me? And I've learned that as much as AS can be an obstacle to being active and healthy and achieving my goals, it can also become the motivation to get to know your body and take care of it at a deeper level. I see my experiences with AS, as challenging as it has been in the past, not as a burden, but as an opportunity for growth and development. I am currently the strongest and healthiest I've ever been, and it was made possible by the struggles that I have had to overcome. I hope this video can serve to educate more people about the early signs and symptoms of AS, so that it can be diagnosed and managed much earlier before long-term damage has occurred. I also hope that it will serve to inspire those already afflicted with the condition and many others to listen and respect their bodies and know that with patience, determination, that they too can achieve amazing health. That's all for this week. Hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you further your education by checking out some of the links below in the description.